All right, let's do it. It is the Friday edition, Mr. Relevant, presented by Door County Distillery, coming off of a Packers loss Thursday Night Football to the Detroit Lions. I'm Alex Strouf, hanging out with you in the Gruber Law Office's One Call Outsell studio at the Avenue in downtown Milwaukee. Josh DiMaggio went to a concert last night, ignored the Packers game. He's off today. He's not here. Hunter Vaughn, Tiny Hands, is here in the Everlight Solar studio. Kelly Sheffield, UW volleyball head coach, joined us on Wednesday's show. They played last night. It was a late one. So Hunter on minimal sleep with us back at the Everlight Solar studio. We'll check in with him in a bit. But I kind of just want to do stream of consciousness takeaways from last night's loss for the Packers and kind of what now is ahead, right? You've got 2 divisional games left, 2 NFC games left with the Seahawks coming up on Sunday Night Football next week, and then the Saints the following week. You've got 4 games in total left. What we know now is the NFC North is no longer in question. Unless somehow miraculously the Lions find a way to lose out, the Vikings also find a way to lose out, and the Packers win out, the NFC North race is over. And we kind of thought it was over, but if you wanted to give yourself a chance at it, you needed a win last night. You likely needed to win out after the bye. You started good, but ultimately you fall short with a loss last night in Detroit. I do feel encouraged to some degree offensively about the Green Bay Packers after the loss last night. Slow start, which ultimately killed them, right? I think it was punt, and fumble the first 3 drives for the Packers on offense in that first quarter. But all in all, I feel pretty encouraged about what I saw. I thought Jordan Love, again, and I feel like I've said this every week the last couple of weeks, played his best game of the year, despite statistically it not being his best game of the year, right? Just a touchdown pass. Once again, not an interception, though. And that's an important thing, right? Like, we've made all these Toyota-thon jokes, and we've made all these, okay, second half of the season, is Love actually the real deal? Can he do what he did again last year? I feel like he's proving, yes, he can do what he did last year. 200 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions for him. And obviously that stat line is a little bit shaken up because Josh Jacobs had 3 touchdowns, including a couple on the goal line. So, right, the 1 touchdown doesn't necessarily equal the impact Love had last night. I thought he was really good. So that was an encouraging sign. Josh Jacobs is that dude, right? We've kind of validated that feeling the last couple of weeks. Again, yesterday, another 3 touchdown game for Josh Jacobs. That's huge. And I've said it every week. I sound like a broken record, so I apologize if you've heard me say this 100 times, whether that be on this show or Green Bay Game Day or Kyle Bruston-Nortman. This is the reason you signed Josh Jacobs. Last night, again, a really good tell. When you're on the goal line or when you're on the 2 or 3 yard line, you utilize Josh Jacobs to punch it in. So he has been hugely instrumental to the success this Packers offense has had the last few weeks. And despite a loss last night, really encouraged with him and Love. The receivers are so interesting to me. Watson and Wicks, both really good. Watson was huge, had the huge 60-yard play, had a couple other big catches, including the fumble, the ultimate fumble in that first quarter, which was the Packers' first big play of the game, close to the end of the first quarter. Tucker Kraft had another really nice night, which was that touchdown pass. So all in all, offensively, I feel encouraged about the Packers. They can keep pace with a really good offense like the Lions. It came down to a last-second field goal, and that also came with 3 bad drives in the first quarter that included a turnover. So all in all, I feel encouraged about the offense. Defensively, again last night, and I felt a little bit better in the San Francisco and the Miami games, but it reminds me of the Chicago game where the defense just couldn't get off the field. The Lions were 3 of 4 on 4th down conversions. And I get it. Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson treat their offense like it's Madden. They go for it on 4th down every single time. And there was one big stop defensively on a 4th down. But screens all night killed the Packers defensively. Quay Walker, maybe 1 good moment, probably about 5 bad moments. Eric Stokes and some of those corners. The Packers lack corner depth so desperately. And it makes me think back. And look, I get it. Jair's out. You don't, when you make the trade I'm about to reference, when you make that trade, you don't expect Jair to miss as much time as he's missed the last 2 years. But trading Rasul Douglas last year was a mistake. And it was hard not to feel that way last night, watching Jared Goff and the Lions offense dice them in the pass game. And look, the screens were the bigger issue. I mean, they could get 8-9 yards every time they threw a screen, whether that was Montgomery or Gibbs or St. Brown or Laporta, right? Like whoever you're doing a quick dump off to, it felt like they were going to get 8 or 9 yards every single time. And that was frustrating. So, not encouraged by the defense. It felt a lot like the Chicago game, where no matter what they did, they couldn't get off the field. And I shouldn't say I always say it because I didn't come up with it, but it is the old adage in football, which is if you win 2 categories, you are going to win the game. If you win the turnover battle, which was even, Keyshawn Nixon had the interception on Jared Goff, so they each had 1 turnover, and you win time of possession, which the Lions won by over 12 minutes, you're going to win the football game. Even turnover battle, 12-minute advantage in time of possession, the Lions won the football game. But I don't want to take away from what the Packers did, because it was an encouraging loss by all means, but it still makes you feel like they're a step away. So those are kind of my get it out of my system, quick thoughts on the Packers loss. Mad City Brew on the ESPN Milwaukee YouTube chat. Well, Strouf is alive. Yeah. Food poisoning. Wasn't feeling great Wednesday during the show, but we had Kelly Sheffield on. I was already here when I started feeling like crap, so I just kind of powered through. Got home Wednesday night. I'll spare you the details. It was all downhill from there. So Thursday, had to call in, missed Kyle Bruston-Nortman, missed Green Bay game day, missed a game day, which I hate to miss a game day on any show. So I'm good, though. I feel much better today, and I'm ready to party for the weekend. But thanks for checking in, Mad City Brew. Yes, I am alive. But those are my reactions to the Packers game. Encouraged by the offense, discouraged by the defense. Hit me up. Let me know what you're feeling a day after. ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube, ESPN Madison on YouTube. You can get me on Twitter, @Alex_Strouf. You can get me on Facebook, @ESPN Madison, where we're streaming live. Want to know how you're feeling, because I don't know if I'm alone there. I haven't really talked to many people today about the Packers game. I've kind of avoided the tough subject of the Packers losing last night, because it's not like they got run out of the building, right? And that's one thing. That happened earlier in the year against Minnesota and Detroit, where they're just outmatched from the get-go. And it felt that way a little bit. At the end of the first quarter, I think it was 10-0, I kind of felt, it might just be one of those games. And then whatever Matt LaFleur said at halftime worked for the offense, because they came out dicing the Lions defense. They had their way, and that was a really encouraging sign. But defensively, and I get it. The Lions are one of the best offenses, if not the best offense in the league. So when you look at that final score, 34-31, I don't think you feel that crappy about it. But encouraged about the offense, discouraged on the defense. Let me know how you're feeling. I want to go to Hunter Vaughn, who I don't know how much of the game he was able to watch with his role as the executive producer of the Wisconsin Badgers Volleyball Network on ESPN Madison, 620 WTMJ, ESPN Beaver Dam, where he does I don't compliment him a lot. He does a stellar job at producing Wisconsin volleyball, who is now in the NCAA tournament round of 32 matchup tonight against Georgia Tech, which Hunter will be producing as well. Hunter, I don't know how much of the game you caught, but as you hear me on my 10-minute kind of bucket dumping following the loss, I'm curious if you agree with my takeaways, if you have any different takeaways that I didn't hit. Any thoughts on the Packers loss to the Lions 34-31?
I mean, I was able to watch, it was kind of on and off for me. Would have probably been able to watch more of it had Tennessee and Georgia Tech not decided to play forever. So we ended up going well through the entire football game of having volleyball on at the same time. But the game felt like the entire time, I'm like, if I saw Detroit had the ball, I was like, okay, they're going to go and get points now. That's just the entire time. It just felt like I'm going to see Detroit score here soon, which makes it feel like it's very clear Detroit's the team in the NFC. They've separated themselves now. And unless Dan Campbell decides to prove to everyone in the stadium that he has the biggest pair of anyone in the stadium and go for it in a bad fourth down spot, that's the only way I see them losing a game. because this offense scored 34 points, and we're like, oh, well, their defense is banged up. They're not going to be able to stop anybody. It doesn't matter because that offense can go on 11-play, 70-yard drives whenever they want.
Right, so you're absolutely right. It was. So he did it 4 times, went for it on 4th down. Prior to that final drive, it was obviously 3 times. They were 2 for 3. They got stopped in their own territory, which the Packers, I think, converted into 7 earlier in the game. It might have been the 3. I don't remember exactly which possession it was, but I know the Packers got points out of it when they stopped them on 4th down in that second half. That final 4th down call, I have a mixed feeling on it. It was the ballsiest play call you could have gone with by Dan Campbell. To go for it on 4th down, under a minute left in the game, Packers have no timeouts left. Like, you're in field goal position. You're not changing the result here. The only way you're changing the result is by not converting the 4th down, not changing the fact that this game is tied and giving the Packers an opportunity. If you go up 3 with 40 seconds left and give Jordan Love the ball, yeah, sure. Maybe they didn't want to repeat what happened 9 years ago on a Thursday night at Ford Field. But Aaron Rodgers isn't Hail Marying for the Packers. It would be Jordan Love. So I don't know if I'm feeling as confident as I would be because Aaron Rodgers, the master of the Hail Mary, we just haven't really seen Jordan Love throw one yet, or at least convert one yet. So I don't have the same faith in him as I would in maybe if Aaron Rodgers was quarterbacking the Packers last night. But yes, it was ballsy, but it paid off. Would he do that situation? Would he make the same decision? Home field, tie game, 40 seconds left. The opposing team has no timeouts. You need half a yard to get, pretty much end the game, but you still need to make the field goal. Would he make that same decision in the NFC Championship game against let's say, the Philadelphia Eagles? I don't know. I really don't know. I think I commend the decision because it turned out to be the right one. If he doesn't convert that, we're killing Dan Campbell. We're killing Ben Johnson. We're killing Jared Goff. It was a really, really, really interesting decision. But I struggle to kill him for it because it's kind of like, what's the saying in basketball? Live by it, die by it when it comes to the 3-point shot. When it comes to 4th and short, the Lions live by it and die by it. And last night it paid off for them, 3 of 4. Will it come back to bite them at some point? I certainly wouldn't doubt it, Hunter, to your point. Like, I certainly would not doubt it. Because if they end up playing the Eagles, a team that, a defense specifically that has practiced against the tush push, probably quite a bit. I don't know. Like, it's a really good question. But last night it paid off for him. And it probably solidified, Hunter. Tell me if you disagree with this. I think last night probably solidified Dan Campbell as the NFL Coach of the Year. A 12-1 start. They've won 11 games in a row. And to win that game in a toughly contested game by the Packers, it paid off. And that probably solidifies him as Coach of the Year. I'm curious if you agree with me on that. I saw the betting odds are way in his favor now after last night.
Yeah, I think Sirianni with the Eagles might be the only one that I think could overtake him. Just given kind of the turnaround and everything, and like if they get the 1 seed, like I could see the Eagles doing it. But like him going for it last night told me that he hasn't like decided he's never going to do that. Because I think back to last season, they're in a Monday Night Football game against the Cowboys. They go for 2. They're going for it on 4th down. That cost them that game, as much as you can blame it on the officials doing a really bad job with the eligible receiver stuff. They still lost that game. They ended up not getting home field and have to go to San Francisco. Had they won that game, San Francisco would have been going to Detroit. It cost them already last year, and he's still doing it this year. This is just who he is. And he's going to do it in the playoffs if it comes to it, because that's their culture. It's their identity at this point. And the thing is, I think it might win them a Super Bowl, especially if they get to the Super Bowl and they're playing against Patrick Mahomes. He's going to feel the need to do it more because we've seen that that's what teams do when they play the Chiefs, because they're terrified of what is on the other side of that field. Like no one else in the NFL you feel that way about except Patrick Mahomes. So if they get to the Super Bowl, they'll do it on the biggest stage, and he's not afraid to do it.
I just want to No, you're right. He's absolutely not afraid to do it. You're totally right on that part. But the point you just made, and I saw Brad Nortman made this one on Twitter, and we'll hear from him on this on Kyle Preston Nortman beginning in about an hour and a half, 2 o'clock on ESPN Wisconsin. He tweeted this, and I thought it was an interesting thought. that essentially Campbell going for it on that fourth down was the ultimate tip of the cap, ultimate sign of respect to Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love. Because even with only 40 seconds left and no timeouts, that Brad's interpretation of him going for it there was Dan Campbell saying, or Ben Johnson saying, that is too much time for Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur to either tie this game or win it outright. Do you think that's the case, or do you think it's just Dan Campbell being a psychopath? And I guess two things can be true.
Yeah, I mean, I do think he's a psychopath in general, and I love it.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Yeah.
I almost viewed it more as the ghosts of Aaron Rodgers coming through. You see the green and gold on the other sideline.
Sure.
You just see it, and you're like, I've seen this too many times. We've got to go. We've got to try and run this clock out because any time is too much time. And I just think that's just where the NFL is kind of still at with the Packers. And honestly, Jordan Love's shown enough that I'm like, he could do it. I would be concerned if I was an OC or a defensive coordinator saying, you guys gave me 40 seconds and a 3-point lead. What are we doing? So I kind of get it. I just don't know if I trust the wide receivers to consistently come through to get the yards that you would need. And that's where I would, maybe kind of have the other idea of yeah, they don't have the guys that can do it the way that the Packers have had in the past.
Yeah, you're right about that. So that's kind of the stream of consciousness. Want to hear from you. ESPN Milwaukee, ESPN Madison on YouTube. Text line is open, 800-990-3776 if you want to do it that way. Brett and Eau Claire chimes in. Again, glad to see you are alive. Happy early birthday. Thank you. And thank you, I think, also on the glad to see you are alive. That's the second person that says, wow, you're alive. I wasn't dying. I just had a quick bug. I was at one day.
Yeah.
Sorry to disappoint. Yeah.
But the quick bug makes
I was
it
not
feel
feeling great.
Yeah. I'm sure you probably had a moment where you're like, is this it? Is this how I go? Because I've had that.
Yeah, no. Look, I was laying on the bathroom floor at one point going, oh my God, this has to end soon. Yeah, it was rough, but I'm fine. I'm good. It was quick. It went from 5:30 p.m. Wednesday to about, I don't know. I wasn't feeling back to 100% until about, really this morning, but I wasn't feeling energetic until last night. So also, we're alive, we're well, we're good to go. Yeah.
Before we move on, and you don't have to say this on here. Don't throw anybody under the bus. But I asked you because you believe that it is food poisoning of where the places you ate in Milwaukee were over the last day, because I'm going over to Milwaukee for the Marquette, Wisconsin game. My wife and I are trying to figure out where we want to eat. I have this mystery list of places that I maybe don't want to try and go to, and won't tell me.
I'll tell you this. You're good. It wasn't in downtown Milwaukee. I'll tell you that.
Okay.
So I don't think you have to worry about Marquette, Wisconsin tomorrow, which, of course, we will talk about in a little bit. Being the college hoops fanatics you and I are, Hunter, we will dive into that matchup a little bit deeper than we have all week. We also have to talk about the shirt I'm wearing, which I don't know your feelings on it yet, so we will get to that. I'll still have, but we have more reaction we need to get to on this Packers loss last night, which we will do coming up. Want to talk about, it's time to focus on the wild card. Where are the Packers? Do you have faith in them to go on the road 3 times and win 3 times? Because I don't know how you're feeling after last night. Because, look, it wasn't a horrible loss. It never looked, outside of the first quarter, it never looked like the Packers didn't belong, especially in that second half. It looked like the Packers belonged. We were 4 minutes into the second half. They were down double digits entering the second half, and they were in the lead, right? So there were several moments last night where I think you as a Packers fan, or me as a Packers fan, can look at it and go, I feel like they belong. And that's good. That's a good feeling to have. But with the loss last night, it means it's going to be a road trip. If the Packers want to get back to the Super Bowl, they're going to have to go on the road 3 times. It's just a fact at this point. And it might even be the 6 seed rather than the 5 seed. So I do want to talk about that coming up next. But first, I do have to tell you about, if I didn't have the stomach bug, what I would have been coping with was Door County Distillery, locally produced, handcrafted, and award-winning spirits made locally in beautiful Door County. Beautiful this time of year, man. with the snow, the lake freezing over a little bit. It's like a quiet getaway time. So if you're going up there, you got to stop in by our friends at Door County Distillery and Door County Winery. And if you're not, bring Door County Distillery to you. I've said it all week, right? Like, it's the age-old debate on old fashions, whiskey or brandy. You can do both with Door County Distillery. Their cherry brandy, made with local Door County cherries. Their single malt whiskey has won 27 gold medals nationwide. So if you've got a whiskey lover and a brandy lover for their old fashions coming over for the holidays, stock up with Door County Distillery. And they've got all sorts of things too that you can hit. They have a bitters alternative, which is delicious, cherry flavored, which you can find in most places. So check them out, doorcountydistillery.com, as well as a huge list of unique cocktail recipes and the nearest retailer to you at their website, doorcountydistillery.com. All right, we'll step aside for 60 seconds when we come back. More Packers reaction. We will also get to Marquette and Wisconsin coming up here in just a bit, as well as our weekend underdog picks for Marquette and Wisconsin. I'll be at the game. Will I be wearing this shirt? I don't know. We'll all find out together. It's Mr. Relevant. I'm Alex Strouf. Back at Door County Distillery, the New Year's coming up, so we're going to celebrate in style, making the final countdown with our buddy Rob from Door County Distillery. Rob, happy early New Year.
Yeah, happy early New Year to you, too. Do you have any resolutions coming up?
I've got many, but we shouldn't get into those now. We only have 60 seconds. We've got the 20 at least time award-winning single malt whiskey headlining this lineup. How do we make the final countdown?
All right, so you start with, as you said, the award-winning whiskey, single malt, 2.5 ounces of that, half an ounce of grenadine, half an ounce of simple syrup, 3/4 of an ounce of lime juice. Stir. Stay on the outside of the glass, give her a little once-over around.
Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to you, Rob.
Happy New Year's.
The
Cheers.
final countdown from Door County Distillery. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Check out their website with a huge list of unique cocktail recipes at doorcountydistillery.com. That's doorcountydistillery.com. doorcountydistillery.com. Okay. So let's just look at it this way, because this is the part that I didn't come to the realization of until, I don't know, maybe an hour ago. I think the Packers are going to be the 5 seed. I don't know that it's possible anymore. Like, it certainly is, and you got to go to Minnesota. You got to win in a couple of weeks, and maybe it'll look a little bit different then. But it's looking like Minnesota will be the 5 seed, because, I mean, let's look at their schedule. Atlanta in Minnesota, that's a winnable game. Chicago in Minnesota, winnable game. At Seattle, probably a winnable game. And then they wrap up the season home against the Packers at Detroit. Will Detroit have anything to play for in Week 18 is kind of what it comes down to there. And if the answer is no, they've got the 1 seed locked up. Maybe the Eagles lost a game or lost 2 games by then. The Lions might bench their starters or only play them a half because they're going into the bye week. I just don't think outside of that Packers game there's a guaranteed loss in the Vikings schedule, and they need at least 1, if not 2 guaranteed losses aside from the Packers. So, to me, it probably looks like the Packers are going to be the 6 seed in the NFC. I don't think they fall to the 7 because, like I said before, there were too many encouraging signs last night against Detroit for me to say, yeah, this thing's over, right? They're frauds. I don't feel that way at all. I feel like they belong. But, even if you finish the season, let's say 12-5 or even 13-4, that might not be good enough for the 5 seed. Which tells you how good the NFC North has been this year. And the Vikings at 10-2, already with a win over the Green Bay Packers. I don't think they're going anywhere. Although I don't believe in them in terms of a Super Bowl contender, I don't think they're going anywhere from that 5 spot. So that all of a sudden makes it a little bit more difficult for Green Bay, as they may fall to the 6 seed, travel to the 3 seed, which is still to be determined between the NFC South and the NFC West. And then likely, you go to Detroit, divisional round weekend. Jason Wilde said it all year, and I just chose not to believe him. But now, as it stands, December 6th, the Packers may be a better team this year and have a better record this year, but get to the same spot in the playoffs. Or I don't see them losing to whoever they would play in the wild card unless they were to fall all the way to 7. But even shorter. Shall they lose wild card weekend? I don't think that will happen. But I've kind of sold myself that the Packers would likely be the 6th seed. And I'm okay with that. It just means you got to go back to Ford Field, divisional round weekend, which, again, if last night is any indication, I'm okay with that, right? Like, I feel like the Packers can compete and beat Detroit. I just haven't seen it yet this year. And what's the saying? Oh, boy. Joshy's not here to hold me accountable, Hunter. So
oh, no.
I wish you luck here in trying to figure this out. Faith in something unseen. There's a saying, something like that. All right, we're just going to skip over it. Hunter, you had something else you were going to say.
Yeah, I wouldn't so quickly dismiss the idea of most likely you're going to see Seattle winning that division and being the 3 seed. And that's a team that has already shown that they can win that home game against the team that had the better record. The franchise at least has, like Seattle had the Beast Quake moment. And like the way that the defense is kind of played for the Packers, like if you told me, okay, DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Tyler Lockett, and Kenneth Walker all go off, or 2 of those guys all go off for Seattle, they could turn that into a shootout and win that game at home too. So like that 6th seed's not a great spot to be in, given that you'd be going to a team that they've got enough weapons that they could make that a game long enough, and then at home you tend to lean towards the home team. Like that's not a fun spot for the Packers.
No, you're right. But the fun part about that is, Hunter, we get a little preview next Sunday night. In fact, it is a Sunday night football game for the Packers taking on the Seattle Seahawks. So you theoretically could get a little preview of that next Sunday, and hopefully it's a dominant win for the Packers, and you get rid of all doubts. By the way, the saying I was referencing from Hebrews 11:1, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. That's what I was going for.
Okay. I'm going to be honest, would have never expected you to try and pull out a Bible verse in the middle of this show, ever.
Hey, Hunter, me neither.
So then why'd you try to do it? I don't get it.
I'm a strange fella. Somebody on the ESPN Milwaukee YouTube stream says, lost to a second-string defense, laugh my ass off. I mean, front 7 for sure. No doubt. But I guess, and this isn't me making excuses, most of those guys have been there, right? Like Hutchinson's been gone. One of their ends has been out all season. Anzalone's been out a few weeks. Like, at least they have some chemistry and some camaraderie, right? Like, this is a defense that's played together. It's not like you're trotting out people that have never played together and played first-string snaps. But yeah, I mean, you should have taken more advantage of the front 7. I don't disagree with that point regardless. But anyway. So that's my thoughts on the wild card. I think the Packers will likely end up being the 6th seed. And look, Seattle's a tough place to play. But thankfully, since that disgusting NFC Championship game, Packers have had the upper hand in the postseason when it comes to Seattle. Now, a lot of those games have been played at Lambeau, but I think that one would be good to see. All right, let's get into stock up, stock down. We do this each and every week following the Packers game. We have some players that are trending up and some players that are trending down. This is not an overall indication of season long. This is just one game, one thought, and the direction in which some players are trending. We will start with stock up, and we will start with the quarterback, Jordan Love. I mentioned it earlier in the show. Despite only throwing 1 touchdown, I think I left yesterday's game against the Lions having the most faith I've had in Jordan Love here in the 2024 season. I have full trust in him once again. I was a little nervous when he went on that interception streak, and now it's 3 games in a row, turnover-free football for the quarterback. He's making throws. There was one drive which included a drop. It was that quick drive where it was only 2 passes. I think it was the Tucker Kraft touchdown pass that ended that drive. But he had 3 specific passes that were just lasers. One of them was a drop, but the other 2 were unbelievable throws. And it was right out of the half. He was just chucking them in there. That was really fun to see. Excuse me. He looks as comfortable as he's looked all year. And obviously, I imagine that's a huge part of being fully healthy for the first time all year, right? He had the MCL sprain in the first game of the year against Philadelphia. And then, he dealt with a couple other injuries throughout the season. So to have him fully healthy is a huge part of, I think, what makes Love look so comfortable. So I have more faith in Jordan Love than I have all year. So stock up to Jordan Love is our first stock up. Let's go 2 stock down. It feels like this guy's been living here quite a bit. Oh, I screwed up, Hunter. I put Isaiah McDuffie in down. I meant to put him in up. Quay Walker in down. My bad. That's on me, Hunter. I wrote the wrong notes. I was working too fast. That's on me. Quay Walker, stock down. Just a quick sigh from Hunter. That's a dynamite drop in. No words, just a sigh. It's powerful. Yeah, stock down goes to Quay Walker. Look, I think he had a couple plays where I was like, okay, good job, Quay. And then he had 9, 10 others where I go, oh my God, we're doing this again. And finally, I think we finally started to have a little faith in Quay Walker because it felt like San Francisco and Miami, he made play after play after play, and he was in the right spot and he was making the right decisions. But you have a flag where I don't really blame him, but you can tell his temper got the best of him. I forget which offensive lineman he pushed, and it was a really well done flop by whichever offensive lineman it was, but called for an unnecessary roughness or an unsportsmanlike. That cost you crucial yards. So there are multiple moments last night again where I'm looking at Quay Walker and I'm going, dude, why can't you just piece it all together? I'm waiting for the moment where Quay Walker pieces it all together. And I finally started to think, oh, San Francisco, Miami, starting to piece it together, despite those teams not having great records and maybe not being as good as they were a year ago, still potent offenses and Quay Walker finding ways to make plays. Last night, despite having a lot of tackles, not his best night again. So Quay Walker again, stock down. Hunter, go ahead.
I know I've brought this up earlier in the season, but I want to bring it up again. Is it maybe time to have the conversation of off-season, ask Quay Walker, okay, let's put some weight on you. Let's get you hand in the dirt. Try him as an edge rusher. Given his athleticism and just hey,
it's
let's try that out because clearly linebacker, he's just making too many mistakes at times.
Yeah, it'd be unconventional for sure. And it'd be something I don't know if he'd be a fan of, right? It's obviously something he would have a hand in the decision-making too. But the athleticism is clearly there. And that's probably the most frustrating thing with Quay Walker is he is such a freak athlete, but he's just been unable to piece it together and really make the impact we're awaiting him to have. So it's certainly not a conversation I'm against, Hunter. But A, are we certain it would work? No. And B, would it be something he'd be into, or would it be a moment where he goes, just trade me then? Right? If I'm not working, just trade me then. You have Edgerrin Cooper. You have Isaiah McDuffie. You have Eric Wilson who are making plays. And by the way, I wrote Isaiah McDuffie accidentally in the email. I thought Isaiah McDuffie was really good for the Packers last night. Not great, but also that's not a guy you expect to be on the field a ton anymore. But Edgerrin Cooper's been injured. I thought he had some really nice plays. He got shot blocked late and got back up, almost made the sack on Goff late in the game. But it is what it is. So McDuffie I thought was good. I thought Eric Wilson was good again. Quay. And maybe it's because we're watching him with such a... And this goes back to Goody. Goody's been really good in rounds 2 through 7 for the most part. Round 1, he just can't seem to get a hit outside of Jordan Love and Jair Alexander, but Jair's been so beat up the last 2 years. Otherwise, his first-round picks have just not been impressive. Just haven't been. They just haven't worked. And Quay Walker seemingly is another one of them, which is disappointing because, as Hunter just alluded to, the athleticism is so clearly there. It's so clearly there for Quay Walker, and he just can't piece it together. So it's a really good point by Hunter. I don't know. Is it a conversation they'll have in the offseason? Maybe. It's certainly one I am not opposed to. But then again, that means you're shorthanded at linebacker. So it is the ongoing debate with Quay Walker. It's a good point by you, but I don't know. Let's go to stock up. Stay on the offense. Dontavian Wicks, the wide receiver, finally has a game where you go, yeah, there it is, because the separation is always there. Has he been able to catch the football? Not really. But last night he was good. Targeted 5 times, caught 4 of them, 49 yards, including a big play. I think it was something like 25 yards for Dontavian Wicks on his long. I thought he was good last night. He came through. And we'll talk about Jaden Reed in just a moment. For a game where Jaden Reed was completely non-existent, Dontavian Wicks filled the void. Right? No Romeo Doubs. You think, hey, that means more Jaden Reed, more Christian Watson, more Tucker Kraft. No! It means more Dontavian Wicks. And it's best game of the season. So stock up the Wicks. Maybe it'll start piecing together towards the end of the year here. And that's what happened with him a year ago, too. He didn't play much. I think he was injured most of the beginning of the regular season last year. And he kind of popped off towards the end of the year. And it feels like that could be the case, hopefully, again, here with Dontavian Wicks, who had 4 catches for about 50 yards last night. So, good game for him. Wish you would have seen more Jayden Reed, which is where we go to stock down, which is Jayden Reed. 50% of the snaps, only 1 target, no receptions for Jayden Reed. It's what I'm really confused about. Like, I don't want to lead myself to, oh, well, he's not the guy we think he is, because I don't think that's the case. 50% of the snaps is about right for him. I'd probably like that number to be a little bit higher. But only 1 target. That seems like a Reed problem more than a Love problem or a LaFleur problem. Because I have a hard time believing that Matt LaFleur is calling plays where Jayden Reed's not the first read. Right? Like, I just don't think that's the case. So, coming off a 2-touchdown game a week ago, I was discouraged by the lack of involvement. And maybe that is a Matt LaFleur problem, right? Like, where's the end arounds? Where is Jayden Reed getting... Why are we not forcing the ball into his hands? Whether that's out of the backfield or, I don't know. I really struggle with the Jayden Reed thing from last night. Because in my head, outside of Josh Jacobs, I think Jayden Reed is the best playmaker on the Packers offense. He's just a guy who can't be non-existent in the Packers offense. Despite scoring 31 points, he just can't be non-existent. And he was last night. So that's concerning. But I don't really know who to blame on that. Is it Jayden Reed? Is it Matt LaFleur? Is it Jordan Love? Is there enough blame to go around? That's the part I struggle with that one. And hopefully it's a problem we don't see again the rest of the season. And Jayden Reed is an especially important part of the game plan going forward. But last night, his lack of involvement was concerning to me on several levels.
I feel like it's a Matt LaFleur thing because, like, for all the flack that Mike McCarthy gets, and rightfully so for a lot of it, when CeeDee Lamb has a bad game for the Cowboys the previous week, that next week they're using him on end arounds. They're getting him the ball out in the flat. They get him going early on, get him into a rhythm. Then they start pushing the ball down the field to him, and then that's where he goes off and has big games. Like, I feel like the Packers just have to do that with Reed sometimes. Like, just get him going a little bit, get him some easy stuff, get him into the game. So maybe he's one of those guys. He just has to, like, get the ball in his hands, get tackled once, and then he's in that moment, and then he just gets rolling from there. Like, do something to get him going early, even if it's for just 2 or 3 yards, just so he can get into the game and get a feel for what the game is going to be, and then you can start pushing it down the field. And, like, I just don't feel like LaFleur does that consistently for him.
Yeah, and maybe that's why Matt LaFleur belongs in this conversation. Is he overthinking hey, we've got so many weapons, everybody can have theirs. Maybe we should emphasize a little bit more Wicks and a little more Watson, a little more Kraft, and obviously more Jacobs. And then there's just not enough snaps left for Reed to contribute. Like, I don't know. Because I've referred to the Packers not having a quote-unquote number one receiver as their superpower in the past. Didn't feel like their superpower last night because Dobbs was literally non-existent because he wasn't in the game. He was out with that concussion yet. And then Reed had 0 catches. He had 0 yards. He did nothing. 0.0 for you fantasy owners in the playoffs who started Jayden Reed. Sorry about that. I'm one of them. So I get it. It just feels problematic when a guy I think a lot of us in the fan base view as, outside of Josh Jacobs, your best playmaker offensively, he can't be non-existent. He just can't be. And he was last night. So it is what it is, I guess. But going forward, that's a problem you got to fix.
But it's fine if the team's superpower is that they don't have a true number one. But then you can't have a guy that needs a lot of touches to get going. Like, that just doesn't work, whether that's your running back, tight end, or anybody. Because you're going to have stretches like this where you don't get a lot of targets, you don't see the ball a lot, but you still have to make a play when it comes up. And if Jayden Reed's that type of guy, then it's maybe kind of like the Quay Walker thing of it's like, do we try and get something for him? Get him somewhere else where he can get used properly, and you can try and find somebody else.
Stop that.
No, I know.
That.
I'm just saying it's the same sort of idea of, is he maybe not the right fit if he is that type of guy?
I mean, it was just one game.
I know. But he's had this one game a number of times through the season. Like, I've got him on a fantasy team. I know. Like, you run into this a lot with him this year. So that can be the problem. And if it is, like, it's just a conversation and something maybe they have to think about, because if he's not being fully used properly, then maybe you got to either, one, change your offense up to use him properly, or two, get him out and find somebody else that you can actually use to their full potential.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first game of the season he's had less than two catches, right? He's had at least 2 catches every game this season. Now, one of those was against the Houston Texans. This is probably the fantasy football one you were referring to. He had 2 catches for 10 yards. 1 for 6, 1 for 4. He had 2 catches against the Bears a couple of weeks ago, only for 23 yards, but he did have the touchdown right away in that game. 3 catches for 26 against San Francisco, only 3 catches for 24, but the 2 touchdowns against Miami. So, yeah, his involvement's certainly gone down since that first Detroit game. He had 5 catches for 113 against Philadelphia. I mean, in the losses, he's been terrific. He was awful in this loss. He's had over 100 yards 3 times this year. Those 3 times were against Philadelphia in the opener, 138 and a touchdown. Against Minnesota, 7 catches, 139 and a touchdown. And against Detroit, 5 catches, 113. So the 3 times he's been over 100 yards this year have been in losses. I don't think there's any correlation there. I'm just saying that's an interesting little fact on Jaden Reed. All right, one more of each. Let's go back to stock up. We will end on a pessimistic note. Stock up Tucker Kraft again this week. He's been really good. He's clearly evolved into a really good tight end. Only had 3 catches last night, but obviously the touchdown catch. I think he's really good in protection, and maybe I'm certainly not the most qualified to say that, but like I almost want to go Kraft / Chris Brooks, who has essentially taken over Emmanuel Wilson's role, is also kind of adapted to a fullback role of sorts, and 2 running back sets. He's like a 6th offensive lineman is Chris Brooks. But Tucker Kraft, I think he's really emerged as a reliable weapon in the pass game for Jordan Love. So really like to see his growth. And you know, it's something that Mark Chmura always says, the former Packers tight end. It's the hardest position to learn, maybe outside of quarterback, especially in year 1. But year 2, you are seeing that very clear, evident jump from Tucker Kraft, which has been incredibly encouraging on that front. So final stock up goes to Tucker Kraft. Final stock down. Look, I don't think it's a bad hire. I don't think it's the mistake. I don't think he's bad. I don't think he's Joe Barry. But the final stock down goes to Jeff Hafley. 4 games since the bye. 2 of them the defense hasn't been able to get off the field. Last night, another example. I don't think it's a scheme thing because overall I think it works. You had a turnover. Got another interception by Keyshawn Nixon. But Jeff Hafley gets my final stock down. Just a bad defensive night. Got crushed all game long. Offensively, you were better in the second half. You were not better in the second half defensively. So final stock down goes to the defensive coordinator, Jeff Hafley.
Do you give him any grace that he was going up against probably the best offensive coordinator in the NFL right now and the hottest OC in the NFL?
Do I give him any grace? Yeah, a little bit. Like, I get it. I wasn't expecting you to shut out the Lions by any means, but 34 is a lot, regardless of who you're playing. It's 11 more than the Bears allowed on Thanksgiving. It is 10 more than the Colts allowed. It's 8 more than the Texans allowed. It's 10 more than the Packers allowed the first time. Now, there was conditions involved with that at Lambeau Field. So, yeah, I mean, they didn't put up 52 like they did on the Jaguars and the Titans, who are catastrophically bad teams and bad defenses. Your Cowboys allowed 47, right? So it's not that bad. I don't know. That was kind of just a shot. That was unfair by me. I'm sorry.
I was literally just going to be nice to you and say how great job with the math there. I was impressed. You had to go and be a jerk.
Yeah, my bad. Regardless, I mean, it's still a lot of points, and 3 for 4 on 4th down isn't great. And I get they were all 4th and 1s or 4th and 2s or 4th and inches, and those are hard to stop because you do 4 downs for a reason, right? Like the average play in the NFL is somewhere between 3 and 4 yards. 3 for 4. Can't get off the field. Yeah, I mean, so I give him a little grace, sure, but You're playing the best offense in the NFL. I get it. 34 points is still a lot in the NFL. Don't really care who you're playing. So, last one on that. All right, let's talk about it. Let's get off the Packers. Let's preview something. Big one tomorrow, right up the street at Fiserv Forum. It's the Badgers. It's Marquette, both coming off their first losses of the season this week. Wisconsin falling to Michigan on Tuesday. Marquette losing to Iowa State on Wednesday on ESPN+. I know everybody was really thrilled about that top 10 matchup being on ESPN+. I haven't picked a side, so I will stand up so you can see the full shirt on the YouTube stream. My girlfriend made me the shirt. Half Wisconsin, half Marquette. It's a sick shirt, if we're being honest. It's really cool, especially 364 days a year. I think I'm going to wear it tomorrow. I'm going to wear it to Fiserv Forum tomorrow. I don't imagine I'll be making a lot of friends tomorrow, but maybe I will. I saw in the YouTube chat earlier, on the ESPN Milwaukee YouTube chat, Mad City Bruce and Strouf, just like you, I root for both UW basketball and Marquette. But my son loves the Badgers, not Marquette. Will be a fun house here in Madison tomorrow. Hey, man, enjoy the game. It's awesome. Your son loves college basketball, like you do, I assume, as you say, and as I do. I think it's awesome, right? Like a little family rivalry. You got to go extra hard on the Marquette fandom tomorrow, though. So, Hunter, you are a Marquette fan for basketball.
Yes.
You are a Badgers fan elsewhere, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, the Badgers are part of
night.
why I have a job, so yeah.
But you also, I believe you went to the Badgers game on Tuesday, right?
Yes,
against Michigan?
I did. Yep.
And you wore Badgers gear.
I did.
So that is one day where you technically don't have to pick a side. Tomorrow, I've been told I need to pick a side.
Yeah.
If I wear this to Fiserv Forum tomorrow, this is in bad taste or in poor taste, in your thought?
It's dumb. Like, just pick a side. It's more fun if you're picking a side. Like you should, if you're watching like Duke, North Carolina, you pick a side. Pick one of the teams and just like, that's the team I want to win this one.
Okay, but hold on.
You're watching Yankees, Red Sox, do the same thing.
We can't compare this to those. This is not Yankees, Red Sox. This is not North Carolina.
To me, it is. My wife's
Duke.
a Wisconsin alum. Like,
right. So that's different, right? Like, I'm a Stevens Point alum. My girlfriend is a Milwaukee alum. So there's not really marital ties, if you will. I'm not married, but you are, so that's why I use the word marital. My girlfriend's grandparents met and went to Marquette, so she will likely wear either this shirt, because obviously we got two of them, because you cut two shirts in half. Yeah. Simple math there. So she might wear this shirt. She might go all Marquette tomorrow. I'm not sure what her wardrobe will look like tomorrow. But, I've always rooted for both. In this rivalry, traditionally, I've worn Badger stuff, but I don't really own a lot of Badgers or Marquette stuff. So that's why I wanted a split T-shirt, because I cheer for both. So you say I have to wear one or the other tomorrow. I can't wear this.
I would recommend you wear one or the other. Because it's like, if you were to have, like, you see the parents who do it, who their kids, like, play for both teams, and they've got the split jersey. Like, Mama Kelsey did it for the Super Bowl.
Right.
Like, there's those kind of things. Like, you obviously don't have kids playing in both of them. Like, and I've seen how athletic you are, so you don't ever have to worry about that anyways in the future. Like,
hey, that's not necessary.
But I'm not wrong. Yeah, man, just pick a side. And, like, if you really want to go with the team that's going to win, like, I'm going to be honest, I love Marquette. I want them to win so bad. I've got Steven Crowell on the screen for a reason. I think that dude's going to go off. Marquette can't defend the post well. 2 7-footers is going to be tough.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. The other part for Marquette is Chase Ross, their two-guard, likely out of this one. Now, hasn't been the biggest scoring presence, but he is a dog on both sides of the ball, right? Defensively, he's one of the best. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's top 10 in the country in steals. He's and Shaka Smart runs his program, on deflections, right? That's a big stat they love tracking is deflections. Chase Ross is a huge part of that. He's made a big jump here in his junior season. So if he is out of this game, I think he's technically listed as doubtful, and that may have changed. I might have just missed it in the middle of all this Packer stuff. But without Chase Ross, that's going to be a big hit for Marquette. And Wisconsin, despite how good Marquette's been the last 2 years, has had Marquette's number in this matchup. So this is going to be a really, really fun one at Fiserv. Going to be an electric crowd on hand. It sold out in minutes when the tickets went on sale last month. I'm pumped for this. I will be there. Hunter, you will be there. I am looking forward to getting after it a little bit. Just want to give everybody a heads up. Where I will be and where our team will be for ESPN, I believe we are calling it Marquette, Wisconsin College Game Day from 10 to noon. We'll be over at Broken Bat Brewery in Milwaukee. I'm going to pop by, go get myself a beer before the game, go say hello to the fellas. I know Alex Cravat, Alex G, who's been on the show before, will be there. Brian D will be there. Matt Yazel will be there. Ben Bruss scheduled to appear, the former Badger, over at Broken Bat Brewery. So I will be over there, probably between 10 and 11, and then head over to the Deer District and then head in for the game at 12:30. But I'm really looking forward to this, man. I'm super pumped. I think this is going to be a really close game, as it has been years past. I think Cam Jones and John Tonje, two guys that have evolved into national superstars this year, will both have their shining moments. Hey, man, the one hope for Wisconsin is Chase Ross. Max Klesmit shoots way better than he did the other day, and he won't have Chase Ross defending him. So, hopefully Max Klesmit can actually make a three. I think he was 1 for 8 the other night against Michigan, maybe 1 for 9 from outside. So if that number can go up a little bit. And he was great last year at the Kohl Center when they played Marquette. So hopefully he can repeat that performance for the Badgers.
I just think Klesmit might end up with Stevie Mitchell on him, which, he doesn't have the steals that Ross does, but I think perimeter defensively,
he's a pest.
Yeah, he may just give him a long day if he's not on Tonje. I think that'll be really interesting. Marquette needs Joplin to hit threes. David Joplin, when he's on and he can stretch the defense because he's hitting threes, they're a different team. But he had a game, I can't remember what one it was early in the year, where he was 0 for 8 from 3. And I'm like, dude, why are we still shooting? Once you go 0 for 4, just go inside. Try and do something else. But he just kept on just hawking it up. And I'm like, I don't know what we're doing, man.
Hawking.
He is, I think, the key offensively. Cam Jones is going to do Cam Jones things. You know what's going to happen there. But if he can start hitting some threes and stretch out Wisconsin's defense, not let Crowell and Winter just sit down low and defend the rim, that's where I think Marquette's got a chance. I say that and then complete opposite will happen and everyone will think I'm an idiot, because that's what usually happens when I try and predict things. So
I do think Marquette's the better team, flat out.
I think they'll go really deeper in March. But I just think they're not built to play against a Big Ten team like Wisconsin, because the Big East is just different type of basketball. So they don't build their team just to beat Wisconsin. So I just don't think they match up well with the Badgers.
Yeah, no, it's. I think you're right on that, right? You featured Stephen Crowell for a reason, and obviously Nolan Winter has made his way into a ton of minutes for the Badgers this year. I've been super impressed with the way they've been able to put up points this year. Outside of Tuesday night, which is Big Ten basketball for you, they're putting up 75, 80 points a night, which is just so uncharacteristic of what Wisconsin basketball does. But when they had to go rebuild their team in the portal with guys like John Tonje and Xavier Amos, they brought in points. They brought in scores. And Klesmit has taken that next step. Blackwell has taken that next step. Seems like Nolan Winter and Crowell are each good for about 1 or 2 threes a game, despite being 7 feet tall. So that is an impressive point on the Badgers. Marquette is just so well coached and so well disciplined defensively. And you've seen that a few times already this year for Marquette, where it's just they are so good on the defensive side of the basketball. I think this is a 3, 4, 5 point game. I think Marquette wins. Because it's on their home floor, I give them the advantage, but I think Wisconsin's going to be right in it, if not leading a lot of that game. So I am pumped for this one. Selfishly, it did land on my birthday, so a ton of my friends are coming into town. My college roommates are coming into town, so it's going to be a fun one. Speaking of my college roommates, my dorm roommate, Max, who is a Marquette season ticket holder, just texted me. In case you and Tiny Hands are wondering, Stevie and Chase are tied in steals per game. So Stevie Mitchell defensively on Klesmit would make sense there. So good call by you, Tiny Hands.
Oh, every now and again I have one. So
yeah, here and there. What do they say? Every once in a while, a blind.
I jokingly
squirrel.
say it wrong. It's a blind squirrel finds a nut. I like to say a blind nut finds a squirrel because I'm a nut. Get it?
It's good. It's good.
I needed to laugh at my own joke.
Yeah, you needed to, because I wasn't going to. All right, let's go to Underdog, UnderdogFantasy.com. Promo code Good Karma at sign up, GOODKARMA, Good Karma at sign up. You get up to 100% deposit match. You get a free pick at sign up. And the best thing about Underdog is you can win up to 1,000 times your money. You can turn $1 into $1,000 just like that. Snap of a finger on the Underdog app. Joshy's been chasing it, man. He's been going 7 of 8 every weekend on touchdown scorers. Joshy not here to give us our picks this weekend. I'm not going to give you an 8-pick entry. I'm just going to give you a quick 3-pick entry on the NFL slate this weekend. A couple of things I really, really like this weekend because there's not very great games. Hunter, you gave us a stat earlier in the week. There's only 2 games with 2 teams over 500 playing, and one of them happened last night. Is that correct?
Yeah. The other one is the Sunday night game. Yeah, it's not a great. I mean, now there is an asterisk to that, given that there's a number of 500 teams who play teams with winning records, which would up that a little bit. But still, it's not a great slate. Yeah, the Chiefs Chargers is the only other one of 2 winning record teams.
Yeah, so I just like touchdowns here, and it's running back centric. I like touchdowns for running backs this week. So I like Saquon Barkley against the Panthers for the Eagles. It's in Philadelphia. I think Saquon naturally gets into the end zone. The Raiders are visiting Tampa Bay. Bucky Irving has come on strong for the Buccaneers. I think he gets into the end zone again this weekend, and these are both rush or receiving touchdowns. So Saquon, higher than half a touchdown. Bucky Irving, higher than half of a touchdown. And then the other one I really like is James Cook against the Rams. I think James Cook gets into the end zone for the Bills against the Rams. So just like that, 3-pick entry, all touchdown scores. Saquon Barkley, Bucky Irving, James Cook, 3 for 3. $10 wins you 44 on Underdog Fantasy and the Underdog app, which is free to download. Use promo code GoodKarma at sign up. Get up to 100% your deposit match and a free pick at sign up. Saquon Barkley into the end zone. Bucky Irving for the Buccaneers into the end zone. James Cook for the Bills into the end zone. That is my weekend slate. 4.4 times. So $20 wins you 88, $10 wins you 44 and some change on Underdog and UnderdogFantasy.com. That's my NFL slate. Marquette Badgers, not on Underdog until tomorrow. They go one day at a time for college basketball. So I'll get some tweets out into some picks out into the tweetosphere on Badgers Marquette tomorrow.
Twitter sphere.
Top 15 Twitter sphere, top 20 matchup tomorrow between the Badgers and Marquette, which Tiny Hands attending. I'm attending. We're going to have a great day. I'm off Monday, by the way. So Joshy and Hunter with you to talk a little Packers on Monday. But anyway, there you go. There you have it. Good stuff. All right, let's get to it. You learn something new every day. We learn something new today. It's time now for What We Learned on Mr. Irrelevant. We start in the Everlight Solar Studio with Tiny Hands.
I wasn't able to get the video of this given where the sources were coming from, but did you see in Matt LaFleur's post game, he talks about the altercation he had with a fan. Yeah, I saw the video then of it. And Matt LaFleur walked like 10 yards out into the field, but then said in the postgame that the fan was getting in his face. So I learned that Matt LaFleur doesn't understand there are cameras everywhere in an NFL stadium.
So I think he maybe exaggerated the got in my face thing, but the fan was pretty close to him. And clearly
Once
Matt
LaFleur
was not
walked
happy.
into him, like he was a good 15 yards away. Like, I'm just saying.
Right.
Like,
I hear
I
where you're
get,
coming from.
I get LaFleur being upset, and I understand him being like, hey, like, officials, like, do something about this. But, like, the walking out there then and then saying, like, this fan got in our face. Like, nah, man, you kind of started going into his space and, like, getting into his face, but okay.
Yeah, it was a weird one, man. And I did listen to Matt LaFleur's press conference, and that's pretty much what he said. He said they were doing slashes, and he'd never seen anything like that. Usually they police those situations better, which naturally they do police those situations better because typically the fan is not on the field, right? He was out there to hold the flag for the national anthem, which also has this weird twist of irony that he was holding the American flag for the national anthem, but also making slash signs at Packers players. I don't know. Strange situation. All right, what I learned, we go to, Hunter previously mentioned the University of North Carolina and the Tar Heels. I don't buy this. I don't know if this is a leverage play, but apparently Bill Belichick interested in which we knew he would be interested in coaching next year, but potentially interested in coaching at the collegiate level as he is interviewed, according to multiple sources, with the Tar Heels for their opening job. As Mac Brown on his way out, he was fired, was able to coach the final game of the regular season, but was fired from his job as the head coach of North Carolina. Bill Belichick having several interviews with North Carolina representatives about the opening. Look, Bill Belichick is a terrific coach. I just don't think it would work at the collegiate level. The guy has said on the record before he only wants to coach guys he likes. That ain't happening in college, right? You can recruit guys that you like, but it's way different than the NFL. Your rosters are A, much smaller, B, there's contracts, so you know how long you have guys. I don't see this happening. So I imagine this is probably a leverage play, but as much as Bill Belichick has probably enjoyed being a media darling here the last couple of months, I just don't see him coaching collegiately. But hey, man, I don't know.
Yeah, but like I could see him, realizing like, well, the college level, like being a head coach, it's really more of a CEO sort of role. Like he's just kind of overseeing everything. Like I could see the appeal and him wanting to have the conversation with schools. I couldn't imagine him coaching an 18-year-old and trying to be the type of coach that he is good at being and that translating well to college kids these days. Like he needs professionals. Yeah. He needs guys who are like, this is my job. I need to do my job. Not guys who are like, I'm trying to get mine and get to the next level. Like I don't see that working well with him.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. All right, so like I mentioned, I am off Monday. I've had this PTO day scheduled for months. So how it works, at least in our company, I think I can talk about this, is you have a specific amount of days you can roll over to the next calendar year, which I try to do. In case, I go on a real vacation or something. I had an extra day to burn, right? Like I'm off the week between Christmas and New Year's, which I try to do every year. But I had one day left. So I was like, I guess I'll take that Monday after my birthday. The Packers the Packers play Thursday, so it's not a Packers reaction day. So I just kind of burned that day. So I'm off Monday. I'll probably still call in because I'm not doing much. I'm just hanging out. I'm just taking a day off.
I'm not taking your call. Take the day off.
Maybe. We'll see. So Josh DiMaggio and Hunter are with you Monday. They will react to all things in the NFL and obviously preview what's to come for the Packers after the loss. We haven't heard from Josh yet since Packers lost. As I mentioned, he was off today, so I'm sure he'll have plenty of thoughts. He'll probably rewatch this thing 3 times. He was at a concert last night, only was able to watch a little bit, is my understanding. So he's going to rewatch the thing in its entirety and then kind of report back on his thoughts on Monday. So Joshy and Hunter with you Monday to break down Packers Lions and Packers Seahawks. I imagine there will probably also be a little bit of Marquette Badgers talk, and maybe that's why I will call in. We'll see if Hunter even takes my call. But appreciate you all hanging out with us, as always. Always fun, regardless of the loss, to hang out with you on this show. Love doing it. Love hanging out with you on ESPN Madison, ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube, ESPN Madison on Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. I got a text, by the way. Mr. Relevant popped up as one of our listeners' top shows. So if I popped up in your top 5 on Spotify Wrapped, please send it to me. I'm not famous enough where I get to record a message, right? Like I saw Noah Khan and Justin Bieber and Taylor. They're very famous artists. They get to record messages on Spotify Wrapped. I wish I could do it because there's probably a handful of people in the world. I'm not saying it's a large number, less than 100 for sure, who have Mr. Irrelevant as their top podcast. But wouldn't it be fun if you get that on your Spotify Wrapped and be like, hey, what's up, dude? Or chick?
If somebody sends us a picture saying that this podcast is in their top 5, I think we can record a video personally for them and then send it to them after. We can make that happen.
I like that idea. On Twitter, at Alex_Strouf, or on Instagram, at StroufESPN. My DMs are open. You can get me and DM me or tweet me. If Mr. Relevant cracked your top 5 in Spotify Wrapped, I will personally send you a video message. It's like a free cameo. Again, I'm not nearly famous enough to be on Cameo. So I'll do it for free because I appreciate you hanging out with us 3 times a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 12:30 Central. We do this live and also available after the fact on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. All right, that does it for us today. I will talk to you Wednesday. Hunter and Josh, you got you Monday here on Mr. Relevant. It is presented by Door County Distillery, locally produced, handcrafted, award-winning spirits. Go Golden Eagles. Go Badgers. It's Mr. Relevant. I'm Alex Strouf. Peace.